Powering on. Mic off. Charging battery.
Alright, give me a second, guys. Okay. That should be good. Oh, I should probably change this to that, instead of capture game, is display. You see? Here we go. Awesome. Pops up. Give me a moment, guys. I'm just waiting for everyone to show up. What's this? Get rid of... I want to know what the notification... Huh. Interesting. Okay, now it posts. I need to go in a custom game. What maps are in comp right now? Sonomer is one of them. Okay. Rialto, Havana. Oh, Busan's actually. I haven't really played many Busan maps at all in comp yet. At least not that I remember. Okay. Set this up. Maps. Hanamura. Yeah, we'll do Hanamura for now. Do Hanamura for now. I just have to wait for people. I just gotta wait now. On the face cam so people can actually see me. Well, no, I'm not just sitting here doing nothing. Turn on my lights too. There we go. Oh my god. I don't care, Elgato. Skip. There we go. Alright, so whoever's participating, I need you to show. I need to know who even is. Let me go back to. We had Sour, SJ, Stonky, Firecracker, Big Joe, and Space. Okay, cool. Are there any of them online? No, not that I see. So I'm just waiting. At least those are the ones who reacted, saying that they be able to make it or would want to come. One of the oh, someone got one of them. Oh, let me actually turn on match. What is that? There we go. Match is on. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going alright. I'm just waiting for more people to show up.
Good, good. Oh, I haven't met you before. I am Joe.
Nice to meet you.
Nice. Yeah, I play support mainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I noticed it earlier. I was looking at everybody's profiles to see which role they play.
Mm. I started playing on console actually, like since the launch of the game, and I just moved over to PC a few months ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like that too. I was console for the longest time, and then just a little bit less than a year ago, I came to PC. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, PC is definitely better in my opinion, but
They have their ups and downs.
yeah.
Like, I don't know if I would say, personally for me, I don't know if I would call it better, but it's definitely a lot more responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously.
Well, it runs a bit better than, at least on my computer.
Yeah, it depends on your computer and stuff.
Yeah. And I just like mouse and keyboard better.
Oh, I thought I had space already, friend. I guess I did it. Awesome. What's up, Space? I'm gonna wait a few more minutes to see if anybody's able to join right now. Otherwise, we'll just start, and then people who join late join late. I do. You don't have to, but I do recommend pulling up my stream if possible, just because of the fact that I might end up drawing on my screen a little bit. Don't know if I'm actually gonna do it yet, but I already have the epic pen up just in case I do. I'll be right back. We can get a drink real quick. Nobody else on? Not yet. All right, so just to let you guys know, for today's class, I guess if you want to call it, we're gonna be focusing primarily on characters like Ana, just because of the fact that, well, for a few reasons. I've noticed that most of you guys just have absolute shit positioning as Ana. And that's not like a gesture at you guys. It's just reality. Like it's to be expected. Most people in gold just don't have very good positioning in general. So it's it's not a jab or anything at you guys. But it's definitely probably the worst compared to some of the other supports you might be playing. It's a lot easier to get away with bad positioning with characters like Moira and Mercy and Lucio and stuff, just because they have more mobility compared to obviously Ana and characters like Brigitte and Zen and stuff, who are a lot more position oriented. So we're gonna be focusing a little bit more specifically on those type of characters. Mostly Ana though, just because obviously a lot of you guys like playing Ana. I love playing Ana, and if you can learn how to have good positioning on a character like Ana, it's easily transferable to pretty much every other support or other character for that matter. But yeah, LP for sports. So I think I'm just gonna get started right here. Let me go ahead and have Joey on Space's team. I don't remember if team one's attack or defense. I want to say it's defense. We'll just start it. This is assault. We'll just start it like this.
Traveling to Hanamura.
All right, so we're gonna. Okay, I am on defense. Let me actually
Imagination is the essence of discovery.
swap it real quick. All right, so I want you both to pick Ana. Okay, actually no. Joey. Oh, wait, Jody, you're playing Ana too, right? You're playing support. I mean.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, hold on.
Is the
Let me
essence of discovery.
see if there's a way I can turn off like hero limits.
I think you'll need to restart it if you do.
I will. I'm just trying to see how I would do that. Off. There we go.
Traveling to Hanamura.
Okay. I want you... Yeah, both pick Ana. And I want you to go to first point defense as if you like you're good to defend. Okay. And I want you to go where you think should be your best starting position in terms of defending. You guys already let me know.
I'm where I think I should be.
I was also thinking there.
What is happening? Realize the stream messed up for some reason. Wait, did you say are you still deciding space?
They were ready.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm gonna pick a character, and I want you to not move. When I get there.
One shot, one kill.
Okay. Good. That is one of the better spots for Ana. Primarily because of the fact that, like you probably already assumed, if I pick a sniper of any sort, like Widowmaker, Hanzo, Ash, I could easily get to the high ground and potentially shoot you. Right. Can any of you tell me what is the main things you should be looking for at the beginning of a round to help determine your positioning?
Open sight lines on your teammates, so you can get good shots off on them to heal them, and also ability to anti-nade the other team.
Also cover from the enemy, like snipers, like Widow.
Correct to both. Although I would say more so in terms of the enemy space's answer rather than just getting sightlines of your team. You should always have sightlines of your team regardless of where you're positioned. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to effectively do your job as a healer. But within the very beginning of the game, because of the fact you don't actually know what the enemy team is running for the first 15 seconds, you have to always assume the worst case scenario. Okay, you always have to assume the enemy's playing something like Widow, or they're gonna run something like Tracer, depending on the map and whatnot. Like if it's a very like flanky type map, like Rialto, for example, that first point, that little side valley on the left or right hand side, if you're on attack or defense, you always have to assume the worst case scenario until you actually know for certain what the enemy team is running. Then from that point onwards, you can readjust your mindset as to where you think you could position. So that is a good spot. Now, can one of you guys, or can you guys tell me what are the pros and cons of that top spot right there that your guys are at?
Pros are you can see both point and area in front of the point, and you can't be seen from choke, so you can't be shot at by the enemy. The cons are there's no health pack in the immediate area, so you can't run to a health pack as easily.
Anything you want to add, Space?
I was gonna say that a con might be this roof could be blocking some of your view if your team pushes up.
Exactly. That's pretty much the biggest con, is the fact that what I think that's Space. Is that you that was shooting?
Yeah.
Yeah. What Space is mentioning, this little freaking weird corner that's poking out of the building, that's blocking a lot of your sideline from your team, and because of that, you have to be very vocal to your team when they're trying to push up. You have to make sure that you're saying in your comms that, hey, I can't hear you guys. I don't have line of sight of you guys. LOS, whatever you want to call it. I can't heal you. Okay, back up. And if they continue to do so, you're going to be forced to drop down. So that way you do have line of sight of them. Okay. Joey, in regards to your comment about not having immediate access to a health pack, that's not entirely correct because there is one door click below you.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And depending on the situation, if you think you have a brief second to just drop down from the window into the doorway below you, yeah, you could easily get to the health pack. I wouldn't drop, that far out, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could easily get to it fairly easily, depending on if you can get away with it. Otherwise, you just take the staircase behind you. Now, are there any other spots you think would be viable on this map for this first point defense? At least as a default positioning.
What about like right here?
Those are your guys. That's what you guys think. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think. Okay, that's Joey. You guys have the same skin, so it's hard to tell who's who. Joey, that's actually that entire roof spot that you're on. That's like the biggest no-no.
Okay.
Just because of how open it is. Like, especially if I'm once you start getting into higher like skill ratings and stuff like that, I just need to simply go up this window. And if I'm playing if I'm playing Ash or something, like boom, you're dead. Like easy. I headshot you once, throw dynamite, or just do a hip shot, and you're dead in like 2 shots. If I
So what about like back here on the staircase? Would this be better?
the problem with that spot is the fact that should the enemy team push the point, you are very easily able to get separated from your team. You'll
Okay.
can easily get split, and you can get isolated on your own and end up getting focus fired with no help.
Okay.
Where spaces, that's pretty much that entire like wooden area that he's in. That's more or less the go-to position in general, for this first point defense. Just because, for the similar reasons as mentioned before, because of the fact that you're not on the actual high ground where you guys were at before, you lose the con of not being able to see your team if they push up a little too far, because you no longer have the big bulging thing popping out from the building. But at the same time, at least once you start climbing up the skill ladder, it is more common that people start to expect the Ana to be right there in that area. Like it's like a pretty well-known knowledge that an Ana, if they're playing Ana, is most likely going to be in that area where you guys are standing. So it's also the pros and cons in that spot, and most notably, you would want to be at the doorway where Joey is. That's the more better option, because then at the very least, if someone is shooting you, if let's say the Widow or Hans or whatever is trying to shoot you, okay, from right here, at the very least, you can quickly duck behind cover in like a split second. On top of the fact, kind of like, who is that? Who's the one that was shooting at me? Or, I don't know. I just need to know your name.
Wait, me?
Sure. Okay.
Space.
Like what Space is doing. Even then, like, if you went to your guy's right a little bit, you should still be able to potentially see the choke a little bit and shoot the choke while also denying any sort of line of sight for me. So I literally can't shoot you while you're in that little area right there. So that entire building is like, that's like your safe haven, because it just denies so much line of sight, but also still gives you guys line of sight, which is what you want. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. One. I don't remember what I was gonna say. Do you guys have any other thoughts about any possible positionings of this first point?
Could I be able to like be up there, but like in the like right behind that doorway, so I'm still hiding from the snipers? Here, let me try and get there.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking over here, right? Where the mega health pack is?
Yeah. Oh wait, but no, this is blocking my sight.
Yeah. Yeah, this is also going to be a great opportunity just to help you guys actually explore the map and learn to understand the map, but with like a little bit different mindset. Because one of the easiest ways to at least learn default positioning, it's impossible for me to give like a end all be all positioning like rule set. just because of the fact that positioning is always ever changing depending on the scenario that's happening. But the best way to at least start learning good positioning is to learn default positioning spots on each map. So knowing where like the safe spots on, let's say, Hanamura, like we are right now, will start giving you a good idea of the good spots. And after doing that so many times on various maps, you start subconsciously gaining an idea of like a subconscious feel as to what is actually a good spot and as to what's not a good spot. You will start to like on your own in the middle of a moment like, oh shit, I'm vulnerable, just because you're used to certain types of positioning at that point. So that's more or less what we're kind of going to be doing a little bit in like for today. It's just kind of going through the maps a little bit and just kind of exploring the maps and learning where the good positioning are and for what reasons. And if certain situations occur, how could that positioning change? Okay, so now just you guys go back to like the little doorway area that was over there. I'm gonna go swap real quick. Where should I go to? Let's do.
Everything can be hacked, and everyone.
Let's go with some.
Imagination is the essence of discovery.
Actually. So let's say I'm gonna attack. You guys are defending in that little building area, okay? But situation happens, the enemy is luckily not running any snipers. Okay. After waiting the first 15 seconds and you press tab and check, oh hey, they don't actually have anybody with range that could shoot me. Okay. Or at the very least, they don't have anybody that can get up there or up there. How would that determine your positioning? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay.
You can play them out a lot farther out. You don't have to be stuck in this little area. You can move out if you need to get silence on teams.
Exactly. You don't have to be directly inside the doorway. You can be a little bit more further out on the little platform. The little wooden platform. It also means too that you don't actually have to be on high ground necessarily either. Just being back there in general is already good enough. Now, let's say, like, both of you go back over there. All right, so let's say again, attack and defending. After first 15 seconds, you see what they have. Let's say, like I am right now, you recognize that they have flankers. They have a tracer, okay? And what should that tell you? What should you be? What do you think you should be thinking? Just
We
by
should probably get
recognizing.
closer to our team, maybe.
You should hold your sleep dart in case they dive you.
Both are correct, okay? However, I don't know how to say this without giving away the answer. Let me go on, move on. I'll just, I'll come back to that. All right, so after recognizing that they have, like, let's say traces, like my instance, okay? What are the most likely pathways I'm likely to take to try and reach you?
Through over here.
Or maybe up top too.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that you already know where I'm likely to be coming from, how do you think you should position accordingly?
Probably somewhere on the other side of the point.
Where do you think?
Probably.
Wait, do they still not have snipers?
No, they don't have snipers, but they have flankers.
Move slightly to where you can watch both of these doorways, while also shooting your team.
Yeah, just for reference, just imagine that your team is just fighting it out on choke where my spray is. Where I'm standing, imagine the majority of the team, your team, is pretty much brawling it out right here. But a flanker or two might manage to slip through. Okay. What do you think you should position accordingly? Knowing that they're most likely going to be coming through this building, whether it be through this doorway or up top. Show me where you think you should position accordingly.
I don't know.
Okay.
I think probably I would go right here. I can still see choke, but I can watch doorways.
Which one are you? That's you?
Um,
Oh, that's space.
Yeah, I'm space up here.
Gotcha. Okay. The correct answer in this case is just to, how do I word it? Depending on how confident you are in your mechanical skills, okay, will determine at what exact point you would go to point. But sooner or later, you'll end up having to go to point. Okay. The best spot would be to just go to point. And primarily, it's just because of the reason, like, you're already right next to it. Your team is more or less in the choke area. Okay. If you come here to point, you have natural cover from the point. Okay. So even if you see them coming, they have to traverse all this open space now to come to you. And it makes it easier for you to be able to react to them while also denying them any value. Okay. At the same time, it's a lot easier to kind of play the hokey pokey with them. Where, let's say you just, for some reason, you're having a bad day, you just can't land any shots on them or whatever. Okay. It's a lot easier to kind of like kite them around the building. And the entire time, you should also be shouting to your team like, hey, Tracer slipped through the left side. Tracer is coming to our Ana. Tracer's on our Ana. Okay. You'll be shouting that to your team. And by doing so, at least a few of your teammates should be starting to back up to join you. In which case, you'll probably have a few of your teammates hugging around here in the middle of this area right here where the rock is, okay? In which case, it's a lot easier for your teammates to help join you right here on point. They only have to walk a few steps, whereas if you went all the way up on the platform you are at space, or you guys went up on the high ground, it's a lot harder for your teammates to help you, and you're forced to do a 1v1, which you may or may not win. Joy wasn't here. I think you were here, Space, when I mentioned it. But a flanker's primary goal is to always go for a 1v1 if possible. If a flanker, or at least a smart flanker, if they see the fact that their target is now paired up with another teammate of theirs, they're a lot less likely to want to engage, just because of the fact that theoretically, if, let's say, everybody in the game in that one match you're in is of exactly equal skill level, okay, just theoretically, that will automatically mean that it will be almost impossible to win a 2v1. So a flanker will almost never want to take a 2v1, or, you know, a 1v whatever that's not more than one. So always being close to your team, kind of like what Space mentioned earlier, is a lot better, but at the same time, you still don't want to give up one of Ana's strengths if possible, which is being able to still help your team from a distance. Okay, you never, and Space, you're probably the biggest, and I've mentioned this to you before, but you're the biggest sinner in terms of this. You like to stay like directly in the middle of your team at like almost all times. I noticed you got a little bit better at it in the previous scrim when I was watching through the VODs. You still did it a lot, but I did notice. Oh, you probably
Sorry, I DC'd. I am here.
Oh, nice. What was I saying?
You were saying utilizing the scope to stay at long distances.
Oh, that's right. I was also mentioning how you were getting better. Yeah. I still noticed that you were still making the same exact mistakes as last time, but you were getting a little better, and I'm assuming it was because of the little VOD review session I had like directly before it. I noticed you were trying out a couple of things that I had mentioned, which was good. But you were still staying on your Reinhardt's butthole like too much. You always want to utilize her. What I guess that's a good time to go over this. What are Anna's strengths?
She has a lot of utility, and from both her sleep dart and her nade, and she is of high healing output. Not the highest in the game, but high, pretty high.
Also, as you mentioned, you can be far away and still do the same amount of healing.
Right. Okay. So what are her weaknesses?
Numb ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, she has no escape besides, or no defensive ability besides her sleep dart.
Right. So
She also has very low damage output.
that's not true, actually. She actually has pretty decent damage output. A good Ana can easily kill an enemy squishy in 3 hits. Whether it be 3 gun hits or 2 shots and a nade. Any combination of those two, it will always kill a squishy, which is pretty decent. Okay, so now knowing, or at least saying out loud, what her strengths and weaknesses are. Okay, strengths being, of course, that she has really good utility. She's very good at long range. Okay. And at the same time, her cons being that she has no mobility. Her only escape tool, or her only get out of jail free card, essentially, is her sleep dart, which requires mechanical aim. So if you miss, you're probably gonna die. Knowing those, what should that tell you about the type of engagements or duels you do and do not want to take?
You don't want someone like Tracer, like, diving you, preferably, because Tracer's hard to hit with a sleep dart, and she moves very fast and likes to get very close.
Mm-hmm.
Also, maybe someone like Reaper that can dodge your sleep dart with shift.
Okay. Anything else?
Pretty much anyone that can close the distance very fast on you.
Okay. So going off of that, how do you guys think should be the way to play around your weaknesses? How would you minimize your weaknesses against those type of characters?
Be in a spot that isn't easily diveable.
Okay.
And if it is, watch the flanks that could be coming your way.
Okay. Anything else?
Maybe play more around cover so that you can try strafing and dodging them better. And if you need to, you can come back to your team for help.
Okay, maybe let me try to put this in perspective a little bit. Here, come on to point. Get behind the bell. I'm fighting you. Would you say you're safe?
No.
Why?
You can blink around both sides.
Exactly.
Enemy contact.
So knowing that, asking the question again, how do you think you can minimize your weaknesses?
Stay as far away as possible.
There you go.
Or
Yes,
You can still help your team, but they can't get you.
exactly. You want to try and turn your weaknesses into your strengths as much as possible. So the best way to minimize your weaknesses is to play to your strengths. In which case, it's simply being in good positions where the enemy team has to, or the enemy flanker or whoever that you're weak against has to exert more effort to try to do anything to you, or at least, or even get to you,
Enemy in my sight.
while also still being effective. And all of that comes down to positioning. More accurately, proactive positioning. So being able to anticipate what the enemy is going to do and when they're likely going to do it will help tell you in advance before it even happens, hey, I should already start getting ready to go in XYZ position because they're likely to come from XYZ location or pathway. And knowing that can help you get ready to go in that position. And even if they do come from that route, they're still at a disadvantage because I can still do stuff to them, but they can't really do stuff to me. So
Contact.
again, going over it again, default position. You guys are on the little platform over there. After the first 15 seconds, you recognize that the enemy team has a tracer. All right? What are your thoughts? What do you think you should do?
They just have a tracer, no snipers. Then you push the point
Okay.
and yell. And if you see them coming around left side, yell at your team.
Okay. So here's another question now. Okay. At what point do you think you should start moving the point?
The second you see the tracer blink into the red building.
More or less, yes. Again, it just depends on how good in your mechanical skill you think you are. If you don't think you can duel the tracer at all, you might have to run to point a little bit sooner than others. In my case, because I'm pretty confident in my skill for the most part, I might actually be more prone to taking the 1v1, but I'm still gonna want to keep a little distance in my book. So just kind of put that into perspective. I'll just pretend I'm Ana, okay, and I'm over here in this area, okay. I'm sniping over,
Enemy contact.
and I see the tracer blink around, okay. What I might do? It kind of depends if you're starting off on top or bottom. What I might do, depending on how the tracer is moving. So let's say they recognize. Oh, did I just lag? Let's say I recognize that my team's on the ground. I'm on the ground. The tracer blinks out after him.
Lights out.
What most likely is going to happen is that the tracer is going to just directly blink across this thing right here. She's not even going to bother going up top. Okay. All right. So, although it might be best for you to get closer to point and get closer to your team, that might not necessarily be the right time to do so. All right. So in a situation like this, because I know the tracer is coming, I could choose to back up, okay, and start moving upwards to high ground, okay. Maybe I can go up here, or I can go up to the window that was just at before. If I were to do this, what do you think is happening now? Okay, if you guys are up here, and the tracer's coming up here, through here, and she sees you moving, what do you think? What do you think is happening all of a sudden?
Well, if you've yelled at your team to come help, they've dropped back to like the rocks, or are moving closer to point.
The tracers might want to try following you up the stairs.
Exactly. She's going to try and follow you up the stairs. Okay. And because you're now buying time, okay, you're basically kiting the tracer. You're leading her into a trap, more or less, because you're still able to maintain effectiveness for your team, because you don't have to move around that much to still be effective for your team at this range. Like you can still shoot him from right here. If you make it up to the window, you can still shoot him from the window. You don't actually have to move around a lot to still be effective at this position. And all while doing this, while simply kiting the enemy tracer, you, in theory, are basically denying the enemy team one person. All right, it's almost like it's basically like a 6v5 during the moments where the tracer's not doing anything. She's trying to find you, and your team is still being effective because you can still help your team from there. All right. The other main benefit is the fact that because of how close quarters these hallways and buildings are, you're basically creating your own little mini trap for the tracer, where it's really hard for the tracer to avoid a sleep dart. It's a lot easier to land a sleep dart in these corridors than it would be out in the open, because she can blink left, right, up, down, whatever. Okay. So that's the type of stuff that I'm thinking about when something as simple as just the match is starting. Is I see what the enemy is playing. I see what the enemy is likely to do when playing those characters. And then having that knowledge, I can determine what position is most suitable to denying value from that character while also still giving myself enough value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's provide another situation. Let's say rather than you guys starting down below, let's say you guys chose to start up here. You guys chose to start up here. Enemy has a tracer. Okay. Team is brawling it out on choke. I managed to slip through. You notice that I managed to slip through. Okay. I'm coming to get you. What do you think you should do?
You take the duel
Enemy contact.
because it's well, first you got your team, but then you take the duel. It's a small corridor that your tracer has to run through. Therefore, it's easy to hit.
It's
I would
like
probably just drop down.
it's like you're both like half correct. Okay. Here you could, because this is still a good amount of distance, and again this kind of comes down to how confident you are in your mechanical skill, but you can easily take advantage of this distance between you and I to at least attempt to do 1 or 2 shots before you drop down. Okay. So like if you know for a fact I'm coming up here, okay? Just you knowing that I'm coming up here should make you already prepared to shoot me as soon as I pop out of this doorway. Your crosshair should already start getting ready to shoot the doorway, all right? In case any of you ever wondered how to increase your mechanical aim when playing a character like Ana, a lot of it just simply has to do with already preparing the shot before you need to take the shot. Just like in this case, you know I'm going to be coming through this doorway. So have your crosshair ready at the doorway. So as soon as I pop up, you're a lot more likely to hit me. Instead of having to shoot me on reaction. Okay. So it'd be like...
Enemy in my sight.
in that case, if you notice that you're missing your shots, then you can drop down. At which point, because you drop down, so like go ahead and drop down. Go ahead and drop the point. Okay. Because you dropped the point, now I'm forced to cross even more distance trying to reach you guys. Okay. Maybe even waste a blink or so in order to try to reach you guys. And you are still effective at being able to help your team from this distance because you can still shoot them from a point. All right. All in the while being able to maybe call over a teammate to help ward me off at this point. Okay. So because by now you should probably have at least a teammate or two at point helping to ward me off.
ازيك؟
So within the course of maybe like the first
Lights out.
30-40 seconds that the game has started, all right,
ده هيفيدك. Enemy in my sight.
and I was playing Tracer, you could have effectively made me waste that entire time just because I'm trying to chase you that entire time. and you're still getting just as much value because you're able to take advantage on a strengths. You're still able to heal your team from pretty much almost any position that you were at. Okay, you were preparing traps because of by utilizing the environment's small corridors to land potential easy sleep darts. And even if fail, you still had an escape plan where you can go to point and you utilize your teammates as natural, almost like natural meat shields, and which will force them to help try and engage the duel at the same time. This is all in the first 40 seconds, more or less. Depends on how quick the team fight goes. Now, let's move on. Okay, let's say the team fight has escalated. All right, it's just a regular team fight at gold. Nothing fancy is happening. Let's say your team is losing the choke. All right, the fight is starting to break out. You guys are over there. The fight's starting to break out. The enemy's starting to push through choke now. All right. What do you think your thoughts are in this case? Let me go get Reinhardt. Let me pretend I'm an enemy Reinhardt.
Justice will be done.
Okay. I'm enemy Reinhardt. I'm brawling out with the enemy team. I always wonder why you two are different colors. Put Joey back on your team. Are you back, Joey?
I have returned.
Cool. Alright. So I'm enemy Reinhardt. Brawling out with the team. And now I'm starting to push through. I'm starting to push through with the enemy team. Okay. What do you think your thoughts are at this moment?
Maybe I should maybe be making a decision to maybe start helping shooting you, maybe, or also worrying about where my positioning should change.
Right. That was my fault for not clarifying. In terms of positioning, what do you think your thoughts should be?
Would it be a bad idea to move here?
It would be.
Hello.
Okay.
Just because you're out in the open.
So the brawl is currently going on like there.
I'm the brawl. I'm Reinhardt. I'm fighting it out.
Okay.
I'm pushing through. How do you think you should? What do you think you should start thinking in preparation for positioning?
Maybe get to the cover of point.
Oh,
Like
if
right
the
side of
team fight starts being lost and you start pushing towards the point, we want to make sure we aren't like on point and you can just start swinging at us.
Correct. Okay. So you guys shouldn't be on point.
What about like?
Keep in mind, it only takes me a couple seconds to go from choke to point. You don't have time to move all the way from that doorway to across the other side of point.
Yeah.
So where do you think you should start mentally preparing yourself to reposition?
I think
Yeah,
yours may be a
maybe-
good spot because we still have a good line of sight to point.
I'm gonna pretend I'm pushing a point. I'm pushing a point. You guys position where you think you might need a position. I'm pushing out the point. Where is Joey? Oh, there he is. Okay.
I'm here.
There you go. Yeah. You guys have that's much better idea. Space is in the more better location just because he has actual more direct line of sight of the actual point compared to over there. on the little bridge you're at will still work if most of the team is still out here and maybe like only the Reinhardt is on point. Okay, so like that bridge could still work, but realistically you could do the same thing just from the little window that you're at too. That little window will actually let you be able to see majority of the points, so you can actually at least heal any of your teammates who are on point dueling it out. But at least up there in general on high ground, that was the right idea. Okay, so the enemy team, me in this instance, okay, is pushing through. Right, this means that now the rest of my teammates also are now having free space to swarm in and decide what to do too. So technically the doorway right here is still decent, okay, because of the fact you still have natural cover, of course, with the corner, but it's not nearly as good anymore, just because of the fact it's really easy for me to, like, it only takes me a few steps.
He's on your team, by the way.
Sorry about that.
So yeah, getting the high ground in that instance makes it a lot more difficult for people to reach you, should they wish to reach you.
Hello there.
All right, now let's just say that the team fight here on this point. Oh no, did my mouse turn off? My mouse turned off. Hold on.
Hello there. Ahlan. Hello.
Okay.
ازيك?
Oh yeah, okay. So now let's assume that the worst happened and your team's losing the fight, and it's looking like your team is most likely gonna lose this point. All right, they're not gonna win this. It's like 5 yeah, it's like 5 of the enemy team on point and half your team is already dead. All right, if not more. Where do you think, what are your thoughts from here?
Probably gonna go back, so I don't get stuck. Go back to the first. Probably
Right.
go back to the other point.
Mm-hmm. And how would you do
Or
so?
you go.
I was gonna say you could go back to set up on the other point and try not get staggered.
Go to the other point. Like, how would you do that? How would you get to the other point?
Go back through this door.
I can't see you guys, so I'm moving around. Okay, do what?
I was gonna go back through here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Pretty simple. Yeah, this little doorway is like super effective. For Ana, just because of the fact that like you go from having like complete view of the enemy point to like just denying all sight lines of view all of a sudden. Like you just cross so much distance and you're providing so much natural cover. Walking back to point. Like realistically, if you do it right, you could practically go through the entire team fight, and even if your team loses the team fight, you could pretty much almost never die, just because of the fact that you were spot on with your positioning. Even if you like did the most craziest plays, pumped out all the heals in the world and stuff, and your team still loses the team fight, at the very least you could probably make it out alive, just because of how you escaped from that little window or doorway, one of the two. Okay, now I'm capturing point. I want you guys to start getting ready to what you think are some suitable spots for defense. Okay. All right. You have no idea which direction the enemy team, me, is coming from. So start preparing yourself on where you think you might want to position until someone on your team makes a call out like, hey, they're coming from X position. Oh no, are you guys ready?
I think I'm ready.
Me too.
I'm just coming to look. Okay. You guys have the right idea. It's just down to a technicality. Space is in a slightly better position just because of one specific reason, but oh, I'm waiting for Joey. There he is. Is it kicking you?
I'm in A.
Yeah, what's happening, Joey? Joey?
Wait, he's not in the group. You have to
Oh.
add him to the group chat.
Oh, there he is. Is it kicking you,
Sorry.
Joey?
Nah, it's just my internet's just taking a shit today. I don't know what's up.
Okay. What's it? Oh yeah, it like you guys are in good spots. Space is just in a slightly better spot just because due to a slight technicality. Okay. Oh, shit, I have to. Let me go on your diet guys team real quick. The technicality is just simply on how the sightlines work for this map, for point B. You'll see why.
One shot, one kill.
So like you guys stay there so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. Because of the fact that these freaking doorways exist, or that this doorway, that doorway, as well as that whole right side exists, just stand in your corners and just take a look around real quick and make note of yourself how easy it is from someone to be able to shoot you from one of those locations, and how easy is it for you to be able to shoot someone else on point, like anywhere in this point B. All right. In was that space? In Space's corner, okay. I can still see you, Space, from right here, okay? If I go to this corner, I can still see you from right here, okay? If I come from that right side over there, I can still see you. That's the main reason why that corner is not nearly as good. Whereas in Joey's corner, most of those issues can go away while still being effective. Okay, so like the only way to actually, let's say you got stuck in that corner space, like wait, just go back real quick. Okay, let's just say you got stuck in that corner, okay, and you notice that I'm playing Widow and I'm trying to shoot you. You're gonna have to hide, okay? Yeah, exactly. You're gonna back up to right there, and if you do that, how much of your team can you actually help from that corner?
Only the back line over here.
Pretty much.
And maybe
Okay.
anybody that's up top.
Exactly. Okay. So you basically put yourself in a corner, unintentionally. Even though it may have seemed like a good spot, it's actually not nearly as good of a good spot. Whereas now you can go to Joey's corner. Whereas if you in Joey's corner, all right, let's say the same situation applies where I pop up in a window. Okay. You go to hide. How effective can you still be?
I can still see
you
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see point.
You can still see
And
point.
you can
still
see
see
the high ground up here.
Exactly, yes. And I don't know who threw that nade, but exactly, you can still throw nades, anti-nades, into the little doorway choke where fights typically happen. Like, hell, you don't even need to really... Like, you can literally just chuck nades at that doorway and you'll hit somebody. Whether it'll be a heal or an anti will be depending on how the fight is going, but you'll almost guaranteed hit somebody because of how close quarters that doorway is. So yeah, that's the technicality of why that corner is just a little bit better. So without knowing where the enemy is coming from in terms of how they're attacking, that is literally one of, if not the best default spot on the map for Ana. Now, let's say I am. You do start knowing where I'm coming from. Let's say I'm playing. Let's say I'm coming. Let's say the enemy team, me in this case, is coming from top right. Someone on your team calls out they're going top right or top left. I mean, they're coming top left. I have to think about your guys' point of view. They're going left. They're going top left. How do you think? What do you think you should do?
Move over here.
Okay.
By the mega.
I
Just
mean,
in case.
this is still a pretty good spot for that.
All right, so I'm gonna move up. Okay. Yeah. Space is still in a pretty decent spot. Like you honestly don't really need to move too much from right there. Okay. Joey, you're not really in a good spot just because of the fact that, I mean, that spot kind of runs into the same issues as to what was wrong with that spot, which is where push comes to shove. If you need to hide, you just put yourself in the corner.
Can't help anyone.
Yeah, you can't help anyone. At the same time too, because of the fact you have to literally cross point to get to that spot in the first place with how open it is. If my team was playing like a brawl comp, but I have that one random Widowmaker on my team, but the rest of my team is a brawl comp. Okay, we got like Brig, Doomfist, Reinhardt, Zarya, Lucio, Moira. We're a brawl comp, but we also have a random Widowmaker. Okay, the brawl would be coming up this top left corner. All right, yeah, up here. Okay, but the Widowmaker will probably be at the window somewhere, getting ready to snipe people too. So like it provides a little bit of dynamics. I was gonna say. Oh, okay. So that is the best default positioning. Okay. However, of course, in this situation, for this top left corner, just to kind of throw this out there, all right. Just because that's the best default position doesn't necessarily mean you're going to always want to be there all the time. Okay, just because of the fact that, what do you think is the problem with that spot? Okay, so I'm on your team. Pretend I'm Reinhardt. Okay, I'm at the doorway.
If you get pushed back into this stairwell, then you can't heal.
Yeah, or not.
Or if you push up.
Yeah, if I push up or back, you can't heal. That's the primary reason. So, how do you think that could be? I don't know about mitigated, but when would it be okay then, in that case, for you to actually stay in that spot, even if your team pushes back or forward?
When you know they have Widow, so you want to keep the silence from here and here far away.
I mean, you're not wrong, but it's not the answer I'm looking for. It's what I'm looking for, something I haven't mentioned yet. I'll give you a hint. It's in regards to your own team's composition.
If they had a healer that's with them.
How would
like a Mora who
on the enemy
is
team?
Oh, I thought you said our team.
Oh, I mean that was the hint. If like I'm just asking you which team are you referring to for the Mora?
Ours.
Okay. So how would having a Moira on our team?
Because a Moira, if they're smart, is going to be playing with the team. And if the team is inside here, most things like Moira's main heal and her ball are going to do well because it's a small, compact area.
Exactly. Okay. If you notice that your other support is playing Moira and you're playing Ana, okay, you can be more lenient in staying in that corner just because of the fact that should push come to shove and your team goes into the alleyway here or pushes up, you know for a fact at least your Moira is with the team and she can make up for the heals or the she can make up for what you're not able to provide at that moment. Okay. And at the same time, you can still acknowledge to your team like, hey, I don't have line of sight of you. Okay. And then them knowing that, they can decide whether or not it's still worth pushing upwards if they're pushing up. If they're pushing back, and you're gonna get sightlines of them in a few seconds anyways because they're gonna come down the staircase. Okay, in which case you can already start anticipating. You could chuck a nade. You could literally just chuck a nade at this staircase. Yeah, and you'll probably have a good portion of the team. And chances are, if your team is pushing up, they probably gain an advantage in some way. And it's probably in your favor, but you don't want to always leave it up to chance. So like, yeah, knowing what your other support is playing, or at least knowing what your team composition is and how that can swing things, can determine things as well, not just the enemies. So let's say in our case we don't actually have Moira as our second support. Let's say we have Lucio. And you know the enemy is coming up to the top left area that I'm at. What do you think you should do?
I could try, I guess, walking up the stairs, but I feel like that might be too close quarters.
Amelie.
You are correct. And what's going to happen is that in a lot of situations you kind of have no choice. You kind of have to get up close. And the most you can do to mitigate that is to play from the doorway as much as possible. So you don't want to be directly up in front of the doorway or the choke, because obviously this is where the fight's gonna happen. You don't want to be caught up in it. If I'm playing Reinhardt and you have Reinhardt and both Reinhardts are brawling it out, okay, at the doorway, you don't want to get smacked. So you playing at the staircase. More specifically, you don't want to play the top of the staircase either. Just a little note, okay? Because when it comes to positioning, you want to always try to maximize your value while minimizing the enemy's value as much as possible. So exactly what you guys are doing right now, kind of playing where you can just barely see your teammates above the top of the staircase, okay? Just barely, okay? That's what you want to do. Because then from my perspective, okay, if I'm at the top of the stairs, I can just barely see your heads. Just barely, okay? And it's going to be really hard to shoot that, let alone recognize it amongst all of the rest of your teammates that are going to be there. Okay. Now, depending on how the team fight is going or what you guys are planning to do, whether or not you're planning to combo ultimates or whatnot, or combo abilities, because abilities can combo too, not just ultimates. Another thing you could also do in preparation, and sometimes I will do this, and it's more of like the big brain play, but you have to understand how things could turn out, if it succeeds or it fails, which is you can actually come to like the little corner over here. This is more like if you're looking to make a play type position, where you can stand over here, and let's say I'm playing Reinhardt. What likely is going to happen is I'm pushing through, smacking Reinhardt, easy sleep dart. You can sleep the Ryan from behind as he's pushing through. Okay.
Couldn't I also do nades to try and get their team?
Yeah, nades too. Okay. Heck, you could probably even do both, like a nade and then a sleep. Oh, dude. So I'm just throwing that out there. Okay, that's more of like if you're looking to make a play type spot. You don't always want to do it though, just because of the fact that once you've like used that spot a few times, the enemy will start recognizing like, hey, they're probably going to be in that, they might be in the left side again, and so like instead of popping out this way to go down here, they'll probably end up checking that spot first, in which case you're just caught with your pants down. You can't do much unless your tanks do some quick thinking to help you escape. So you don't want to abuse that spot. That's more like a every once in a while type thing. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. Oh, I remember what it was now. And at the same time too, one thing you also do want to recognize is that as you start climbing the skill ratings, skill levels, people are a lot more aware that characters are more likely to be in that corner too. Okay, and they'll start checking that spot a little bit as well. So just throwing that out there. But that is more like a make a play spot rather than like a default spot. All right, enough about this top left. Let's say my team, the enemy team, is coming down mid. What do you think are good spots?
I don't see a reason to not stick with this corner.
Yeah, pretty much. You can just pretty much stay in the corner. Like you'll find that most often than not, you can pretty much stay in that corner for like majority of the time. There is another spot as well. And this is more of a playmaking spot as well, which is up here. Okay. Up here, though, you only want to be up here depending on what the enemy has. Okay. So obviously, if the enemy has, flankers, or they have ranged characters, like if they're playing soldier or whatnot, the soldier's probably going to likely want to be on high ground too. If they're playing Ashe, they'll probably be where I'm standing. If they have Whale, they'll likely want to be where I'm standing. So if you let's say the enemy, if the enemy is running something that isn't really going to want to be on this high ground, okay, to want to and is able to contest you, such as like if they're playing a brawl comp with like Reaper and Mei, they're going to stick with the team. They're going to come straight down middle with the rest of the team. In which case, you could actually be up here to help make plays, because it's a lot easier to get anti-nades from this spot and like do sleep darts and whatnot. Oops, that's not a sleep dart. But do sleep darts and whatnot, and just shoot people in general compared to that corner where you're a little bit more vulnerable in that corner, because it's a lot easier for people on point to just walk up the steps and get you in that corner compared to if you're up there where space is. So that's the type of spot where you have to like, you can only take advantage of it if you have enough game sense to recognize what the enemy is playing and
Wait,
how
and
that's
to get
likely.
up here, we would just walk up these.
Wait, what?
I'm wondering, just to make sure that like,
I'm saying
because
it.
if there was that, they might be watching this pathway from here.
Well,
to here.
okay, you see up there. I'm saying if the enemy's playing a brawl comp and they're playing something like Reaper Mei. If the enemy's playing like Reaper Mei in a brawl comp with like Ryan, Zarya, Lucio, Moira, or something, okay, and they're coming, and you know they're coming down mid, okay. There's not much that team can do against you if you stay up there. And we're coming to point. We're brawling at a point, okay. There's literally not much the enemy, like my team, could do against you if you were up there, compared to if you were Joey is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's only if the enemy is playing a character like Soldier, for example. Let me swap.
We're all soldiers now.
Because a soldier is not going to actually want to be directly in the middle of his team. A character like Soldier, and a lot of hit scan characters in general will typically want to take the high ground. So even if the rest of the team is going mid, me as Soldier, I'll probably go top left and come up at this corner over here, and I'll be able to contest you. Okay. So that's one of the risks, and that's one of the things that like I'm referring to, like just having enough game sense to recognize what the enemy team is playing and how that's likely to affect what they're gonna do. And you can decide from there whether or not you think it's worth it to go in a spot like this. So like if your mechanical aim was good enough, if you're confident if you're in your mechanics, you might decide like, hey, I could still probably get away with standing up here and might be able to duel the soldier because my anti-nade denies his healing station, and I will only need 2 more shots to kill him. And if I know he's coming from that top, if I know or at least expect him, even if he doesn't, if I at least expect him to come in that right side, like I'm checking that corner over there, I could already have a shot lined up to hit him as soon as he pops around that corner. So it puts pressure on the soldier, makes it harder for him, and you can still more or less maintain this area. Okay. Again, though, that's completely reliant on how confident you are in your mechanics. If you're not confident at all, obviously you don't want to be up here in that situation, to clarify. All right. I think that was pretty decent for defense. Let's go ahead and transition to attack. All right.
One shot.
I'm gonna set up like I'm on defense. You guys stay in spawn as if the doors haven't gone down yet. All right. Door's about to go down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Doors go down. Start moving where you think you want to move. Okay. Your team's at choke. They're brawling at choke. All right. It's going back and forth. Good. Okay. Who's that? Who's that way back there? That Space? Space, you have a slightly better spot just because of the fact you can still move backwards and stuff, whereas Joey, you're literally stuck there. You cannot move. Yeah, boom, you're dead.
Fair enough.
On top of the fact too that it also helps that if you go more, there's a staircase behind you guys that you can actually walk up. Yeah, you also have high ground now too, and you're still denying line of sight. For me to contest you, yeah, stay behind the corner. For me to contest you, I literally have to come up here to try and contest you. Okay. In which case, I'm very likely not going to want to do that as a Widow, unless your team is an entirely brawl team, like, you know, Reaper, May, like I mentioned before. In which case I can get away with it because I'm on the high ground and they're not. But for the most part, you're more than likely going to have like a Hiscan or something, or a Devo or whatever, to help contest this high ground. And they're not going to be stupid enough, hopefully, to want to transfer that. But yeah, that's a good spot. Okay, so now let's say, shit, team is still brawling it out on point. I'm away from my grappling hook. All right, team is still brawling it out on point, and
Wait, in choke?
at choke. My bad. Team is still brawling out a choke. Your team is winning. They're starting to push through. Okay. You have a couple going past choke now. How do you position accordingly? Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. Who is that? That Space? Yeah, Space. Space is in a slightly better spot just because of the fact that it's easier for him to have better sightlines of your team. This is where you're gonna have to utilize jiggle peeking, where like you're not gonna really have much choice but to peek out in order to heal your teammates. And should you decide to, like if you notice the Widow is shooting at you, this would also be the moment where you decide, do I want to attempt to shoot the Widow? Okay. Do I want to risk it? Like you might chuck if you know where the Widow is. Yeah, exactly. If you know where the Widow is standing to try and shoot you, you might be able to peek out quickly and chuck a sleep and try and sleep her. Or throw a nade. Okay. Just something. Just something to try and make her back off. There will be moments where you have no choice but to flex your sniping skills and show who is the alpha sniper. It's gonna be scary, but there are moments where you don't have a choice and you kind of have to do it. And chokes like this, if I'm a smart Widow, I'm probably gonna ignore the team fight that's happening and I'm waiting for you to peek out so I can kill you. Okay, in which case you will literally have no choice but to try and duel me at least a little bit. Okay, at least a little bit to make me back off or distract me or something. Now, in terms of how do you actually help your team while still trying to hide from the Widow, this is where you can actually utilize the dual traits of Ana's gun, because you guys know how her base rifle for shooting at the hip is projectile, whereas her scope is hit scan.
Yeah.
This is a moment where you could easily be shooting from the hip and taking advantage of the projectile. Okay, so like if everyone is just in the middle dueling on point, okay, this is where you could easily do something like literally peeking just to shoot the projectile shot, and then you can hide as the bullet is traveling. Okay. I call this jiggle peeking. Okay. The only thing you want to make sure is try not to have your movements too predictable. Otherwise, the Widow might be just timing your pattern and waiting for you to pop out and trying to snipe you. Okay, so you don't want to stay at the same pattern and be like bop 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 bop. Make it slightly sporadic, where it's like bop 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 bop. You know, just a little sporadic so they can't predict it nearly as much. So, for the most part, you could for this first point at least, for the most part, you can more or less end up staying at that first point. You don't have much need to actually go past that choke. The only time you would ever actually go past that choke is if you know you would be more or less safe, or at least alive if you did so. If you could walk across. So again, easy situation. If the enemy's playing a brawl comp, they're playing May Reaper. Okay. Obviously, if I'm main Reaper, I can't do shit to you if you're at choke and you choose to walk through choke. Okay, I can't do shit. In which case, that would be a moment for you to try and transition back to the defense area if possible. At least head like towards that. Okay. Or even better, depending on what the enemy's playing, you could even take advantage of the high ground, like where space is. Or this is a situation, like if I'm playing a brawl comp with May Reaper, Ryan Zarya, Lucio, Moira, this would be one of those rare situations where going up here is actually pretty beneficial. Yeah, we're joyous, okay? So it literally just depends on what the enemy's playing and a little bit of what your team is playing. Okay, in terms of positioning, it's mostly dependent on what the enemy is playing, because that determines how big of a threat they can apply on you to force you to take more extreme positioning compared to others. And only in certain situations, like with the top left corner point B defense Hanamura, does what your teammates are playing actually can potentially affect how you position yourself too. That's right, you guys are on attack. So my team is losing the fight. You guys are winning. Okay. I'm starting to get ready for defense. Okay, and you guys are on attack. Let's say that your team decides to go for you guys top right. Okay, up the staircase. They're gonna go through that little choke doorway thingy. How would you position yourself?
Wait, do you have a sniper or no?
Doesn't matter. I could or could not have it. You're Here, let me clarify. Okay. I'm your Reinhardt. I'm your guy's Reinhardt. Okay.
Hello there.
Joey, where are you going?
Acknowledge. Amelie.
All right, I'm your guy's Reinhardt. Okay, we're pushing through. Okay, obviously you guys will be behind me. Okay, I'm pushing through. I'm here at the choke. Where are you guys? Okay, both of those are okay. I personally believe that this area is just a little bit better. Just because of the fact you're actually closer to the actual doorway to shoot people. And then as your tank, me Reinhardt, I'm Reinhardt. As I'm pushing forward, I'm holding up my shield. Okay, as I'm pushing it through, that's where you can get closer to the doorway and start being able to shoot people through the doorway. Okay. Let's say I'm going up here. Yeah. You guys can stay up there. You don't need to come all the way up the door because the fight's gonna happen right here. All right, you have no need to be on my butthole. If you were, and I'm looking at you, Space, because you're the one who's most likely gonna do it. If you were on my butthole, and I'm playing Reinhardt, enemy's playing Reinhardt, we're gonna be smacking each other, and you're likely gonna get hit if you're right next to me. So you don't need to do that. You guys are at a good spot right there.
Wait, I was wondering, would this also be an okay spot over here?
Yes, and no. Why do you think I say yes and no?
Well, no, because I have very little cover, but yes, because I can heal my team if they're in the choke and also land.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, you're correct to a degree. It just all comes down to, again, like I mentioned, on what the enemy's playing. Like, if I'm playing McCree, if I have a McCree on my team, do you think that spot is still safe?
No,
Right.
because you can just kill me.
I could just shoot you. If I'm playing Main Reaper, though, do you think that spot is still safe?
Probably.
Safer, yeah. A lot safer.
Yeah.
So it just completely depends on what the enemy's running. Okay. You also want to keep in mind, too, that I can easily just jump right here, too. So you have to keep that in mind. Or that if the enemy chose to do so, you could potentially get separated, which is not what you want. So you would only come over here if you think that like it would benefit your team to do so, or if your teammates are already winning that fight and they're pushing them back. Could you come up here? Because if let's say for example, hey Esteban, thank you so much for the $2 donation. I do coaching. So let's just say, oh, fuck, what was I gonna say? Got a blank. Oh yeah, okay, I remember what I was gonna say now. So let's say that I'm Reinhardt again. I'm dueling with the enemy team. My team's behind me. Their team's behind me, or your team, I should say, is behind you, behind them. Let's say the fight is.
Hey, sorry to interrupt you, but I gotta go.
Okay.
If that's cool.
Yeah, no problem. When this stream is over, it'll be uploaded as a VOD on its own on the channel, so you can always watch back later if you want.
I'll make sure to watch that.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
See you.
Thanks for stopping by, man. See you later.
Yep.
So let's say that the fight's going 50-50. Okay, it can literally go either way. It's not clear as to who's gonna win it just yet. Okay. That spot you're on is also kind of 50-50 on whether or not it's good or not. At which point, I personally wouldn't take it. Or let me rephrase this. That's probably not the best wording. The fight, we're brawling it out here at the doorway, and it doesn't look like your team is able to gain the upper hand somehow in order to be able to push through. Okay. Let's just say no one's dying. No one's dying. And both teams are just kind of stuck at this doorway. All right. It's about even, but we're stuck at this doorway. Going to that spot is not safe. Just because of the fact, like I mentioned, one of the enemy teammates could easily just drop down and start dueling you on your own. And you're getting separated. You'll probably get picked. Okay. And once that happens, they're down a main healer. And now they can actually just push through here and start harassing the rest of the team and might end up getting it, winning. So it just completely depends on how the fight is going. And the best I can say to that is that just comes through experience and understanding how a team fight is flowing, like how the nature of team fights happen. That'll just come through experience and be able to judge on whether or not you think it's the right time to pop out in this area, if that makes sense. The only way I can really teach more of that like game sense type stuff is to do like VOD reviews. That's the only way I can really do that. Since it's just you here too, what I can actually do, what I'm looking to do, is I don't know how much time do you have?
I think I have to go for dinner soon.
Okay.
So maybe like 15 minutes.
Okay, so what we can do is after you come back from dinner, what we're gonna do is we'll have you jump into a game of quick play, okay? And I'm gonna spectate you, and we'll join comms on Discord, and I'll be able to help guide you on certain things, so you can start getting a sense and start getting practice on positioning and whatnot. And what are good moments to do things. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. We said we were going to mid already. Wait, are you on attack? Oh yeah, you guys are on attack. I forgot you guys are on attack. Okay. So we'll just wrap this up. I was hoping we could do more maps, but this is fun. So you guys are on attack. Let's say you guys decide to go through mid. So instead of going top right, you guys decide to go through mid. So just drop back down in front of in front. Okay. You guys decide to go through mid. What would you position?
I think I'm ready.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So your team is now pushing through the choke. Okay, they're holding up shield at choke. Okay, they're slowly pushing in. I'm I'm visualizing how the fight's happening, so you can move according to that. Okay, so your team is pushing in. You have Reinhardt. He's holding up shield at choke. He's pushing through choke. He's starting to arrive at the bridge. Okay, all right. I'm playing Widowmaker. I'm looking for a pick. Okay, he's pushing through. He's holding shield up at me. All right. I transition to middle. And your team starts making it to point. So now they're basically just touching point. Okay. I'm trying to shoot people. What can you do? Yeah. Pretty much, okay. This is one of those points where it's kind of awkward for Ana. We're like trying to find a good position to shoot teammates, but also deny enemy sightlines can be a little tough. What were you about to say?
I was just saying, yeah.
Yeah. In which case, there's not really too much you can do about it. You just kind of have to work with it. At least you're able to still help your team, though. That's what matters. You can still chuck antis. You can still chuck sleeps. You can still shoot people. That's the main thing that matters. I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. Of course, depending on what the enemy is playing. So, like, if I'm not playing Widow, let's just brawl comp again. I'm playing Reaper May. Okay, I'm brawling it out with the rest of your team. On point. Okay. Yeah, you could afford to be more at the actual choke now. Okay, because it's harder for me to come to you. One thing worth noting too is that if you know that I'm playing May Reaper, okay, while your team is pushing to point, okay, so before they even get to choke, you can actually start heading up top right to come up here. To start getting ready to come up here. So by the time your team does reach point, you're already in position on high ground. That's called proactive positioning, where you know what's about to happen. You know your team's about to touch point in a few seconds, so you're already starting to head toward the position you want to be in by the time that happens. Yeah. So, but like your team's pushing up, they just get the point, bam, you're already in position. Realistically, you don't even need to be in the middle right there either. You just need to get there realistically, and you can start helping your team. The only thing you have to keep in mind, obviously, if you are up there, is the possibility of someone flanking to your right. That's the only thing you have to be aware of at all times. And that just comes down to be able to track how the fight is flowing, be able to recognize who actually died, who's actually on point. Is there anybody missing that you haven't seen in a while? Has McCree not shown up for a little bit?
Yeah.
A little suspicious. Maybe he's coming to the right side, like that type of thing. All right, so it looks like the server's shutting down. I think that's pretty much good though. So
Yeah.
I'll let you go to dinner. I'm gonna go to the bathroom as well, and then later on, let me know when you're done, and we can do the quick play stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Like, this was good. Later, on later days, we'll probably do the same thing and but like touch on other maps, so that way we can sooner or later get a feel for other maps as well. Because I know it's kind of hard to do this sort of thing on your own without.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible. I did this myself, where I alone just went through the maps and like looked for positions, but it took me a long time of trial and error of figuring out what were the good spots.
Traveling.
So I'm basically helping you save time by already kind of telling you where the good spots are. All right,
Come on, let's bring it
I'll let you go,
together.
man. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. That's it for the stream, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like on the stream, especially if you found it helpful.